Welcome to the reveal of the first animation challenge, a challenge running throughout the month of May where I challenge you to use animation, to learn animation from the ground up, to communicate your science and stories. This week it's been flipbooks, and I not only created not one, not two, but 3 flipbooks for today's video. Now, I'm a marine biologist, so all of my animations are going to be marine, sea creature, ocean themed. But if you've seen my other videos, that's no secret. So have you ever noticed that fish are weird shapes and sizes? Have you ever noticed that different fish swim differently? Why does Marlin in Finding Nemo always struggle to keep up with Dory, who can just keep swimming? This video will answer all of those questions and more. Before we get into the bulk of this video, why not head down and subscribe to my YouTube channel? I produce content every single Wednesday for you guys that are ocean themed, marine themed, basically me just going on about the weird and wonderful life that you can find in our seas. We go rock pooling, we do scientific art together, and animation. It's fun, positive and educational, so why not join in? Animation can be such a powerful tool to share your stories, and indeed science. Now, we all know that animation, especially in the big movies, is a great way to capture a little bit of magic. You can watch your creations come alive! No, not like Frankenstein, but there's something about seeing what's in your head come to life on paper, on page, on screen, so that you can share what you're seeing, your vision, your idea, with the rest of the world. And that's classically been linked to storytelling, but it is also true for science. Now, in science, we all have our weird niches, our weird things that we all love, and they're all different. I, for one, love barnacles. I'm obsessed with them, but these weird little crustaceans aren't everyone's cup of tea. There are people that know more about the moons of Jupiter than they do in their local park, and people that can tell you every single plant that lives in their local park. But what if you could learn to tell the people that like parks why the moons of Jupiter are so amazing, and vice versa? And that's exactly what this challenge is, and really one of the ideas that sparked what I'm talking about today. When I was doing my undergrad, we got to learn a ton of things, but one of the things that really stuck with me, that really interested me, that I want to share today, is how body shape and body type and how something swims can actually tell you how that organism lives its life. Just by glancing at a species, you can sometimes tell exactly where it lives and exactly what it feeds on. In today's animation, I have made 3 flipbooks from 3 fish species that live their lives completely differently. And they look different too. I'm going to show you these 3 flipbook animations of the species of fish. One fish feeds on things that really don't move and live on the seafloor. Things like mussels and crustaceans, crabs and shrimps and things that don't move too quickly. Another fish species can eat the things that are on the seafloor, but it also goes after small fish and things like squid. And another fish species, they feed exclusively on fish and squid that move through the water column. Now, I want you to watch these animations, and then I want you to pause it. I want you to go down to the comments, and I want you to tell me what you notice about the body shape of that fish and match the fish up with the descriptions that I've just given you. Now, don't cheat, because you could fast forward and I'm going to tell you the answers, but let's start a conversation about it. I want to see what you know, and also I'll give you a little heart for everyone that got it right, and who doesn't want a bit more love in the world right now? Win-win. smash these up, but before I do that, I'm going to tell you about my animation process, because during the animation process it really hit home this message and really made it clear to me exactly how different these body types were and exactly what the differences were between these organisms. So here are my top 5 tips for making a flipbook so that you can join in at home if you want to do something like this. Number 1, use sharp scissors when you are cutting the paper for a flipbook. If you want to watch my whole process of me working out how to make a flipbook, and trust me, there are a lot of pitfalls that I hit and then put a load of tips into that video separately for you to overcome problems, go watch that too. But making a good flipbook really relies on you having exact cut paper, so use good scissors, make sure it's nice and neat, and take the time to do it, because it's gutting when you draw in a flipbook and you get to the end and it just doesn't run very smoothly. Tip number 2, if you're worried about it being not smooth, a way to get around this I found is to take a hole punch in the top corner of the pieces of paper. Once you've got that hole, you can also take a hole punch of, say, a bit of sticky tape or a bit of washi tape that's a different colour, and that'll give you a little round circle to kind of help guide and line it up. As long as every sheet of paper lined up with that dot and is kind of flat and, you know, in the same place, then your drawing is always going to line up, even if the pages are a little bit wonky and a little bit out. And I found that kind of saved me with a couple of my flipbooks. Number 3, use a sharp pencil. Every couple of pages, sharpen the pencil, because it's surprising how quickly the pencil becomes blunt. And before you know it, the fish or the thing you're drawing at the start just kind of becomes this alien blob by the end, just because it gets thicker and heavier and it kind of mixes the shape too much. And just simply sharpening a pencil will help solve that problem. Number 4, this is something I struggle with. Be patient and hold yourself accountable to make sure that every single sheet in that flipbook is done accurately and precisely as possible. Because if you include a little error in every sheet of paper, by the time you get to the end, that's a big error, and surprise, surprise, it starts to look like an alien again. Number 5, when it comes to choosing something to put in your flipbook, choose something that excites you, something you love, and something that is clear and simple, and take that idea and bring it back to the bones. Firstly, because if you're excited about it, you're going to want to do it. You're going to already have that idea, that passion to put into something that's really exciting. And animation, you don't get long. You can spend a lot of time to get a very short flipbook. So it has to be something punchy and something interesting that captures attention. If it's already captured your attention, it's likely to capture a lot of other people's too. So going with something that you love will really help. Stripping it back to the bare bones, I found when making my flipbook, I only really changed the fins of the fish. I didn't include the scales, I didn't include body movements unless the body had to move, and I certainly didn't include any other fancy details. And that actually helped get the message across clearer. It focuses you in on the area you want to focus on. If you've only got a few seconds to get a message across, don't faff around with anything else. Just go in and get it done. So let's look at these animations in more detail. Now first up is our Bal and Wrasse, and these guys are so linked to their swimming that actually the group of species that they are is named after their swimming form, or their swimming form is named after them. I don't know. But anyway, wrasse are a type of labriform, and the swimming type that they use is described as labriform after them. I also don't know if that's how you say it, but we're going with it. Now if you notice in this animation, I am only moving its pectoral fins, which are the fins right at the front of the body. You can kind of think of like hands. And this is how this species swims. It is the fish species that only eats things that live on the seafloor that don't move very much. It likes to live close to the seabed in sheltered kind of environments, things like rocky habitats or kelp forests. Now it's a bulky, powerful fish, and its job is to stay in place while the tide is moving and the waves are moving around it, so that it can search and find all of these different creatures, but then use its really powerful fins to stay in place, and then to turn and get into all those nooks and crannies so that it can reach the species that it needs to eat. Think of its movement a bit like if you were rowing a boat. You would swap oars and swap fins to move in place, and you can use it to actually move quite powerfully through the water and turn quickly if you need it. These are powerful fish. Just look at them. They look a bit like a tank anyway, but they've also got really strong teeth. They eat things like mussels and cockles, and their teeth can get through those shells, so just imagine how powerful that is. But as far as I'm aware, this fish species doesn't really travel very far. It stays close to those sheltered environments looking for food. It's not like our other fishy friends that we're going to talk about in a minute that take much longer journeys. And you can tell that by its body form. It isn't something that's kind of streamlined, it isn't something that looks like it has a lot of power for moving far, but it has a lot of power for agile movements and for kind of staying in place and weathering the storm of some of these environments, which can be a bit turbulent. Next up is cod, which exhibits the most common form of swimming throughout the entire fish world, which is called chorangiform swimming. Again, trying my best. This swimming, if you notice in the animation, I am only really moving the tail of the organism. It's really tail focused. In fact, 85% of the forwardness of that fish is coming only from that tail. And that's important for the way that cod live. Compared to the Ballan cod travel miles. In fact, they make migrations. In the UK, cod populations can go right down from the south of England all the way around the UK and off into the middle of the North Sea for feeding grounds. That requires them to swim for long distances to be active, and that's exactly what this swimming type and their body type is for. It's for powerful, fast, long distance swimming. Their body doesn't really move, conserving more energy and using their tail to really thrust and propel them forward. But another cool bit about this body form is that you can imagine on such long migrations you can run into some fish that want to eat you too. They are still predated on. And this swimming style can also mean that if they use their body and use their tail, they can move really agilely through the water at short, sharp bursts, which means they can help avoid detection, and it can also help them move as a shoal together. You can imagine that this swimming type means that they can travel far and fast and are still quite agile in the water, is why most fish decide that this is the great way for them to swim and have evolved to do so. Now, I'm not sure exactly what species this is, but it's a cat shark. Normally I don't call it cat shark, I would call it a dogfish, but actually there are the dogfish, the species is different to is a cat shark, and I'm talking more about cat sharks in general because dogfish actually swim slightly differently. Anyway, I digress. This is a cat shark, and this cat shark feeds exclusively on things that are in the water column, so it kind of has to change the way that it swims, and it's evolved to swim slightly differently. Its form of swimming is called anguilliform, and that means that it's basically moving its entire body to swim. Now, I haven't quite captured it all in the animation, I don't think. It's very difficult to capture a whole body movement. It would have been easier if I'd done a top-down view. But hopefully you can see from this video from the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth that these cat sharks are using their entire body to move through the water. Now, when they're using their whole body, it can actually be quite efficient, which means they can travel longer distances. But where this type of swimming really comes into its own is using that tail right at the end with the body to do really, really fast bursts. And it uses this to hunt down the quick little nimble fish and squid in the ocean so that it can feed and hunt. It's that element of surprise that we so relate to things that are like sharks. Now you know how these species live, look at the differences between the cat shark and the Ballan, the two most opposite types of fish species. The Ballan's body is much more like a tank, whereas the cat shark is almost, it's hydrodynamic, it's thin and slim and made for fast movements. They both move in entirely different ways. The Ballan not really moving its body and relying solely on its fins, and the cat shark just moving its entire body loads. The reason I find this so fascinating and so exciting is that there's tons of different ways that fish swim. There's so many different fish that you can see and look at and work out exactly where they fit in just by how they swim. And the takeaway message of this is to always question what you see. Really look. I don't just mean glance at something when you see it. Look, question and be curious. Ask why that fish swims that way. Ask why it's that size, why it's that colour, why that organism you see runs differently to different species. If you ask questions, you find out loads of different information. Usually there's a reason in nature that an organism does something, and I find that so fascinating. If you do it enough and you learn enough, you can look at a species and know exactly where it lives and what it eats before you even know what it is. It's not psychic, it's just science. And a really cool party trick. Doesn't really come up that much at parties though. Might do, one day. Thank you for watching this video animation. The challenge is continuing this month. This was just the first challenge. The next challenge has come out today and is in a separate video, which I will link here. If you haven't had a chance to try a flipbook yet, go and do it anyway. And people, if you have tried to do a flipbook, then let me know. Put in the comments below what you've done, or tag me at Marie Mumbles on Twitter and we can have a conversation, and I want to see them. I'm really excited to see what you guys have come up with. Go check out the next challenge, good luck with it, and don't forget to subscribe for weekly content and to join in on this great animation fun. Have a fantastic week until I see you next time. Bye everyone.